Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Old Time Rock and Roll. I'm your host, David Tear, where I feature a different rock and roll artist every day whose birthday it is today. And today happens to be the birthday of this guy, Glenn Frey. He was one of the founding members of a very popular California group known as the Eagles, along with his friend Don Henley. They founded the group in 1971, and they were both here's the Eagles. The Eagles were together until 1980. Then they had a 14-year hiatus until 1994, but then they reunited until Fry's passing in 2016. And they're one of my favorite groups of all time. They're from California, where I lived most of my life. And they were very popular when I was in high school. They had several big albums. I'll go into, I guess I'll start on that. So the first big album was just called The Eagles. This came out in 1972. This had, I'll only mention, Glenn Frey sang lead on about half of their songs, and Don Henley on about the other half. But the ones Glenn Frey sang lead on the Eagles were Take It Easy and Peaceful Easy Feeling. And then the next year, 73, they had their second big album called Desperado. Uh, this had a very beautiful song called Tequila Sunrise on it. Um, and then in 74, the next year, they had an album called On the Border. That one had a couple hits. Glenn Frey sang lead on, including Already Gone and James Dean. And then in 75, they had an album called One of These Nights, which featured the title track sung by lead by Devin Henley, but it also had the song Lion Eyes, which is one of my favorite Eagles songs, sung lead by Glenn Frey. And then their biggest album, I think, was this one. It was called Hotel California, and this had the title track, which Don Henley sang lead on. But Glenn Frey had another big hit on this album called New Kid in Town. And then they had a kind of a hiatus for about 3 years. Their next big album didn't come out until 1979. It was called The Long Run, and it had the title track sung lead by Don Henley, but it also had a big hit called Heartache Tonight. And I really like that song. It was popular when I was in high school. It's one of my Eagles' favorite songs. So that was pretty much the Eagles. They broke up in 1980, like I said. They did eventually reunite. But while they were broken up during the 80s and early 90s, Glenn Frey ended up going solo. And he had some big solo hits and albums. His first big album, solo album, was called No Fun Allowed. And this had the hit The One You Love. And then his next big album was called The All Nighter. This came out in 1984. This one had a hit called The Smuggler's Blues, which I believe was featured in the very popular TV series Miami Vice. And then he had a couple other hits. They weren't on, I don't think they were released on albums, but he had the opening song for this movie here, Beverly Hills Cop. This is one of my favorite movies, by the way. I love this movie, and I'd recommend it to you guys too. I think it's my favorite Eddie Murphy movie. Very hilarious, and these two other guys, in case you haven't seen the movie, are these two cops he worked with in Beverly Hills. He was originally from Detroit, and but anyway, I don't want to go into that too much. But Glenn Frey had, like I said, the leading song "The Heat Is On," and his other big hit was called "You Belong to the City." Um, and I don't think that was featured on an album, but it was a very big hit. And that's pretty much my profile on Glenn Frey. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next.